Welcome to the game. I'm Russ Cohen. We've got Nico Riesgo. Nico, how are you?
Russ Cohen, my man.
And Michael Jello, how are you?
Good evening, Russell.
So let's talk a little baseball here. There's a couple of big subjects that have come up recently. Let's talk about the spider tack first, which I didn't even know existed a week ago, but apparently baseball did because it's been illegal all year. I guess it helps you mountain climb and get grip on rocks and with your hands and your feet and now to grip a baseball. And so, Mike, I guess at some point baseball found out this is a big problem in the sport with a lot of pitchers using it. Mm-hmm. And Yankees pitcher Garrett Cole should have copped to it. He pretty much, I think, the first day did. And then said, well, this is not the forum to talk about it the day after his win. And it's like, well, if you don't talk about it with the media and public, where's he going to talk about it?
Well, I mean, we after hearing those statements, it sounded like that Yankees PR got to him and said, just don't say anything or not play dumb, but don't non-denial and just get past it. I mean, personally, like I said, I think it's ridiculous that he is, and again, he's the highest paid pitcher and he's pitching for the Yankees. So, but I think it's a little unfair, that he's being singled out when, like Pete Alonso, as part of the things that he said yesterday, said, 90 to 95% of the pitchers use it, and I don't mind them using it because when they're throwing 99 miles an hour, I want them to have control on the ball. So, I mean, if there's sort of an acquiescence of that point of view on the part of hitters, then Major League Baseball maybe should, I would say, readjust their stance on this. But right now, it's illegal, and they want to crack down on it, and they have every right to crack down on it. But I think you're going to find that it's not Garrett Cole. It's Garrett Cole and a lot of other people that are using it.
Yeah, no doubt. And, Nico, with great paycheck comes great responsibility. So, what's your feeling? I mean, Pete Alonso is probably a little more different than most. I don't think all hitters feel like that because Josh Donaldson says he's got a lot of video on it. And he's going to just put it out on social media soon, and I think that would embarrass the sport if that happened.
Yeah, I don't think that the spin, the sticky stuff is helping the pitchers with their control. I think it's much more than that. I don't know
spin rate. They're getting more spin rate, and it's the only way they can get more spin rate. Guys have been trying to get more spin rate a lot of other ways, and they can't do it any other way except for that way.
The sticky stuff, yeah, the spin rate. Now, does it make you throw the ball more accurately? I don't think so. I don't know where Alonso's getting that. It makes the pitcher have more control.
Yeah, I think you're probably right about that. I don't think Pete quite gets 100% of that because I don't think it makes it more accurate. I think it makes it break deeper in the strike zone, makes it break differently.
Yeah, if anything, more wilder, harder to control. And it's almost like, when they crack down on the players for corking their bat or putting too much pine tar, the George Brett episode on the bat. So if you're going to crack down on the hitters for corking their bat or extra pine tar or anything like that could be considered an advantage to the game, that's what this would be considered for the pitchers, an advantage of the game, and obviously the umpires should crack down on it.
But, Nico, they never seem to crack down on the hitters. Yeah, there were occasional times like, Whitey Herzog used to basically take x-rays of Hojo's bat, and I interviewed Hojo for my book for Numbers Don't Lie, a Mets book, and Hojo, said, yeah, he never caught me because I never did it. But he did it at key times, and really all Whitey Herzog ever accomplished was he took away Hojo's game bat. But Hojo would start to have 2 or 3 game bats when he went against the Cardinals because he knew it was going to happen.
It was psychological, Russ. That's what it was.
Yeah, but you want to know something weird? At Chase Stadium, the visitors had to walk through the home dugout to get to their dugout, and Whitey Herzog would look right at Hojo, and Hojo would laugh at him. So it was a game. So Nico, tell me when they're going to crack down on the hitters because they never do.
Well, I thought they'd have in the past. Like I said, they cracked down on George Brett in the playoffs. We all
I
saw
know,
that
but that's
on television.
not in the last. Well, I'll rephrase it. Not in the last 10, 15 years have they cracked down on the hitters.
Right, and I don't think the hitters have been corking their bat in the last 10 years. That's kind of been an old type of thing. The bats that they use now, these maple bats, are so hard. The
I don't even know where you would get the rubber balls from. Mike, who was it that had the bat break open with rubber balls in them?
Acme.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Russ, the players went from corking their bats to corking themselves with steroids.
Right.
That's basically what they did. You couldn't get away with it with the equipment, so you just loaded your body with the androstenedione, and then there you go. But the thing is that, I mean, this is just a more adept approach of what Michael Pineda tried to do a few years ago. The problem is that the idiot slathered pine tar on the back of his neck that the Boston Red Sox could see it on the Yes Network because he had a patch of it so big that you could see it from the moon with a satellite. So. This is just a more adept way of doing that. But again, if it's in the rules that you can't do it, but they should crack down. But there's always rule breaking. Gaylord Perry is a perfect example of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Joe Negro with the file, but Gaylord, it's not like he got caught every game either.
Yeah,
and then after a while, Mike Scott, yeah, and after a while Gaylord stopped. But Nico, in this era, they do seem to want to crack down to the pitchers more than the hitters. And I think it's just because the pitchers are ahead of the hitters. Like the technology, everything else. I think pitchers have made more gains in this game where batters have made fewer. And that's why after the launch angle sort of failed, they're like batters now are lost. They're guys with the uppercuts who are hitting 210. And if you don't hit 30 homers, what the hell are you doing out there?
Absolutely. The pitcher has the advantage now. I don't know what they're doing. They've gotten better mechanics. The speed of the ball is coming a lot faster than it used to in the past. You get more and more players up at 100 miles an hour than you've seen in the past. And it's scary when you're a player up there facing 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And then they deaden the ball. So the pitchers have an extra advantage with the dead ball. So just make it a regular ball and let's play ball.
Well,
go ahead, Mike.
The thing is that if you look at any game right now, and I was at the Toronto-Houston game on Sunday, you bring in a reliever. It used to be each team had maybe one guy who would throw 96, 97, and then you had a bunch of junk ballers or, overweight guys like Aurelio Lopez, Senior Smoke, or
Charlie Corfeld, guys like that.
Right, or guys who like lefties who would pick the corners like Rick Honeycutt or somebody like that. Now it's everybody coming out of the bullpens, lefties, righties, they're all throwing 96, 97, 98.
Yeah.
It's like, that wasn't the case even 5-6 years ago. So that is probably what is the cause of the numbers going down in terms of hits and home runs, and also the ridiculous launch angle bull crap that they've been doing the last few years, where all they want are home runs, walks, or strikeouts. It's a boring game. It's an inefficient game in my mind, but that's the way it's going.
Yeah, there were a lot of great relievers that could hit like 90, 91, but because of the way they threw in the mix assortment of pitches, they did well. Who was it? Who was the Astros guy? Mike Dave.
Dave Smith.
Dave Smith, right? He was lucky if he could break 90. But you know what? He fooled a lot of guys out there.
Well, Kent Tekulve, Dan Quisenberry. There are a couple submariners like that.
Gene Garber.
Yeah, Gene Garber, and then later on, like a guy like Chad Bradford from baseball fame. But those guys, there are very few of those guys in the bullpens now. It's just flamethrowers who throw 97.
Yeah, we don't even see any knuckleballers anymore, Nico. Like, that's gone.
Yeah, where are the what is it? The Tim Wakefields of the world?
R.A. Dickey was the last of the great knuckleballers.
Stephen Wright, not the comedian.
R.A. Dickey. That's a great name.
Yeah, I mean, he had a few great years, and he
Cy
was Cy Young Award winner. Yeah, he was the last of the great knuckleballers. So yeah, it's different. And so the other part of this, and I'll go to Mike on this one first, is with Pete Alonso. He speaks after a game. He talks about the dead end ball, like Nico said, and then tries to draw parallels between free agency for pitchers one year and then the hitters for next year with this year. Yeah, this coming year after the season with guys like Trevor Story. They're not going to have good stats.
Mm-hmm.
That's a heavy allegation for him to make, Mike. So far, Major League Baseball hasn't even fined him, but I do applaud him if that was players saying this, like in clubhouses or whatever, and nobody wanted to say it in public, so he did.
Right. I mean, yes, I applaud him for bringing it out, but if this is true, or if this is what they actually believe, then grieve it. Then this is something that is a grievance that the Players Association should make to Major League Baseball, because that's affecting the futures and affecting the well-being of players who are going to be free agents this year. I mean, if you think that Major League Baseball is that Machiavellian that they're like in wherever they produce the balls and making sure that they have less carry than the previous year, that's something that's serious and should be addressed. But I mean, unless you have proof, I don't know if it was wise to say it.
Yeah, Nico, I mean, we don't know if it's true or not. There is no way of knowing right now. Maybe more info will come out down the road. But does this sound like something where Pete was hearing this from other players, so he just decided to go public with it?
Yeah, I think it's the talk around the town. Obviously, with the collective bargaining agreement expiring here very shortly.
Very quickly.
This is on the player's mind. Yeah. This is the number one thing that's focused on the player's mind is is this going to affect their salary positions, the dead ball era? It's going to affect a lot of hitters that are coming out for free agency, and their numbers are going to be down, and it's going to affect their pay.
I mean, Nico, don't you feel like a lockout's coming?
Yeah, something's coming big. We don't know what it is. We may even miss a full year of the game. I mean, something that, like I said, hopefully they could come out with an agreement tomorrow, and we would know. We know maybe they're working behind the scenes or something, but I think we all know it's going to go down to some serious negotiations in the off season to get this thing.
Yeah, I agree. Now, Mike, and another offshoot is, baseball is actually in the Olympics this summer, and Major League Baseball wanted nothing to do with it. So there's no even recent major leaguers that can only get long retired ones and guys from, that are like never really made it to be on Team USA, which I think kind of sucks. And I just saw today that where I saw that the Team Israel is going to play FDNY, the New York Fire Department's baseball team, in Brooklyn, where the Cyclones play. And, my thought on that is, like, if this were FDNY, NYPD hockey, which I covered a few of those games, they're unbelievable. Like, these are great hockey players that play all the time. But now you're talking about, and there's a few good players on Team Israel, now you're talking about them playing against the FDNY, and it's like, what the hell kind of game is that for them to tune up for an Olympics? Like, it just seems like baseball is going to be, like, awful at the Olympics.
Yeah, this is a precursor of baseball not being in the Olympics if it goes
ever again.
Ever again, yeah. I mean, honestly, I remember collecting cards in the '80s from the '84 Olympic team with Mark McGuire and Corey Snyder and a few other players, and there were some good players on those teams. Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like they should flip-flop baseball and hockey so baseball can play in the Winter Olympics and hockey can play in the Summer Olympics, because the schedules of the two sports don't allow you to play. I mean, they're not going to interrupt the season to go to Tokyo. So
no, I like that, actually. I think that's a great idea. Nico, what's your feeling? I mean, baseball in the Olympics could really lose steam and maybe we'll never see it again.
Yeah. If we don't have the prime time players in the Olympics, I mean, we've got enough of the Todd Frazier's. We've seen enough of them. And believe me or not, Todd Frazier's good enough to win the Olympics. I mean, that's the type
Sure.
of player. We've got some former players that are
I
going
think
to
he
play. And I
just
think
signed.
USA
I think
is
he
going to be
just.
strong this year.
Yeah, I think he just signed with the semi-pro team today, though, Todd Frazier. So, I don't even know if he's going to be able.
There's going to be some former major leaguers on the Olympic team, and like I said, we just may win it just with their talent alone. But it would be nice to see the premier Garrett Coles and the premier Verlanders on the mound representing America. That's for sure.
Are we going to have Sadahara O and Keiagawa on the Japanese team?
I don't know. I think O is about 75
Yeah.
to 80 years old at this point, so I don't think he's hitting any more homers, Mike. I think those days are.
Hey, Luke
behind him.
Appling hit a home run in an old timers game and he was 70 something. So anything's
Yeah,
fine.
but guys in old timers games were like pitching underhand practically.
It'd be great to see Ohtani play with Team Japan against America.
It would be, yeah.
Yeah, before he hurts himself.
Yeah, I mean, Minnie Minoso actually played in Major League Baseball. He was pinch hitting after a while just so he could play in every decade. Remember that?
Yeah, well, yes, I do. I'm old enough to remember that.
And he did get some hits. I mean, he did. So I felt like at least that was, but that was interesting. But yeah, I'm just afraid that baseball is going to have a bad look here and that's going to be it. And we're just never going to see it again. I don't want to see that. I don't even know who's on the Team USA team. Like, that's the worst part. I have no clue.
Yeah, I didn't even know it was still an Olympic sport.
Well, it just got back in. It was and it wasn't, and yeah. So it just got back in. So that's a whole other thing. Nico, All-Star Game. Do you have any idea where the ballot is, how you do it, or anything? It's funny. I ran across it by accident the other day. But if you would have told me that there was going to be an All-Star Game, which there is, and there was a ballot, which there is, I'm guessing a lot of fans can't find it.
No, I would say MLB.com app, but I haven't even seen it on the app. I don't know when they're going to release the promotions.
It's released. It's out there.
Yeah, well, I don't know how you vote then. Maybe they're not going to have fan voting because they moved it from Atlanta and now it's in Denver.
How appropriate would it be that we can't find a ballot for an All-Star Game that we can't find because they moved it?
That is kind of funny, but again, this is like, I know, Mike, you're generally down on All-Star games, but I got to tell you, for many, many years, I looked forward to the All-Star game and I watched all of it and I loved seeing, the AL against the NL, and I get it. We have interleague, but I still like the AL against the NL. I think there is still like a little bit of a brotherhood between those leagues. And, I'm not feeling it. I don't even see, have you seen one commercial? Have the Yankees talked about who their all-star guys are yet? Like that are on the ballot? Nobody is.
Not a one. And in general, for most of sports, all-star games blow. They're terrible. They're boring. People are going through the motions. And baseball is probably the best of all of them because, you have the mano-a-mano pitcher versus hitter. There are still consequences, which I don't agree with in terms of home field advantage for the World Series is still a part of it. But yeah, I mean, it's still a good game, but it has lost. I think there's been a general lack of or loss of luster ever since the interleague came in, because it was the whole thing about seeing the National versus the American, or seeing Dave Parker throw out somebody from the right field fence in Seattle. I mean, those things. Now the romance really is gone from it. And honestly, the last thing I really want to watch is the home run hitting contest. I see that in every game all the time. So what the hell do I want to watch it in a contest for?
Yeah, even that, we have no idea who's going to be in it. I just find all of it amazing. But I'm going to give a little story. And I don't know the exact year. It was in the 2000s. But I was in Vegas, and my wife and I are eating dinner, and we're at like a really nice Vegas dinner spot where it overlooks the Strip. And, we got pictures taken, and actually anybody who sees my headshot online, that's the picture I use because it's got the Vegas Strip behind it. And of course that's like an older picture now. So yeah, I'm a little grayer, but, we're eating dinner. And again, those days you had cell phones, but you weren't getting texts or anything like that. Not at that time. And all of a sudden I see there's like a commotion at the bar, and I'm like, dude, what's going on? And he goes, oh, it's the All-Star game. They may have to cancel it. I'm like, what are you talking about? They may have to cancel it because, like, yeah, they've run out of players. They don't know what to do. And I'm like, and I said to Amy, I'm like, do you mind if I go look? She goes, no, go look. I mean, this sounds weird. And Nico, you have to admit, even though that was a total bungle by Bud Selig, at least everybody was talking about it, right? Like, that was a big deal.
Yeah, and that's when they came up with the tie, right? They said they just leave it as a tie, and that's what basically stands. And that was basically a disruption of the game itself. A tie. We've never seen a tie in a game. I mean, it just.
And at least it didn't kill the game, but it did get everybody talking about it. Like, that's the thing that I'm most aggravated about, Mike, is that nobody is talking about it.
No, to this day, I remember the visual of Joe Torre, who I think was in the hierarchy of Major League Baseball, newly in the hierarchy of Major League Baseball, talking to Bud Selig in like the box next to one of the
He's like scratching his head. I remember that.
What the hell do we do? It says, okay, here's a solution on the fly. You're allowed to bring players back in.
Right.
Why don't you just do that instead of ending the game in a friggin' tie?
Like, that's the part I didn't get. It's like
that's a great solution.
Yes, that's what they should have done. It's an all-star game. Why can't players come back in? Like, what's the big deal?
It's an exhibition. It's like the Yankees against the Bingo All-Stars or something like that. That's
Bingo Along All-Star.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I mean, geez, it's not, at that point there was no consequence to this game. It was entertainment. So let the players come back in.
Yeah, that's definitely what they should have done. But now it's at the point where nobody cares, or they're not promoting it, or nobody cares. And so, it's just, it's a little sad. It's just one of those things that kind of gets me, because I know I'll watch it if I know actually what station it's on at what time, because I haven't even seen a commercial. But hey, what do I worry about?
It's the baseball equivalent of the tree falling in the forest. If nobody hears it, did it make a sound? Well, if nobody knows where the All-Star game is, does it really matter?
Are they going to blame Mike Trout for not marketing the All-Star game too? Mike, you're not getting out there with enough players. So, Nico, Mets are still in first place. The jinx is not working.
Not yet. Not until the playoffs. It looks like they're going to make it to the playoffs, and we'll see how they fare. If they can even get out of the first round. I mean, the fact that they are in first place in June, I think everybody's surprised. But when you look at the way the Atlanta Braves, the Phillies, everybody in that whole Eastern division, nobody's above 500 except the Mets.
The Phillies and Braves played the worst game today, too. I watched the last couple of innings. It was painful. It was painful because they were scoring runs with just wild pitches. It was painful because every guy who got to second base scored in extra innings, which we hate that. And it was kind of abominable. But you're right. That is what the division's like. Now, Mike, about a week ago, I think I had seen that the Yankees had the lowest league slugging percentage at home. Mm-hmm. And you may have figured out what the reason for that is.
Well, I mean, apart from the fact that they're all swinging from their heels to hit the ball 6,000 feet.
Not that.
Yeah, I mean, I may have. Well,
the fact that they're mostly righties, right? And and they have the short porch.
Well, yeah, I mean, talk about a team that is not tailored to their ballpark with 300 and some odd, I think it's 315 down the line in right field at Yankee Stadium, and you've got, I mean, back in the day, I mean, they had a few they had Dave Winfield in the 80s, but most of their power hitters, Reggie or Mattingly, or even guys who were flash in the pans like Kevin Moss, or they were all lefties. And
Chambliss was a lefty.
Chambliss was Tino Martinez. I mean, it was all lefties. Darryl Strawberry.
They always made sure they had a couple.
Right, and now your lineup against a right-handed pitcher with Aaron Hicks out probably for the rest of the year because of a wrist injury. Shocking, because he gets hurt every year. Right now, your lefties consist of a 37-year-old Brett Gardner and Roughneck Odor, who the Texas Rangers are paying $20 million to not play for them. So, I mean, that's a sad state of affairs. And it's like, okay, they've got a lot of good hitters, LeMahieu, Torres, and Judge and Stanton. I mean, did they consider like maybe moving one of or a guy like Clint Frazier, moving one of them for a lefty? Because their lineup is completely imbalanced, and when you have righty after righty after righty coming out of the bullpen for the Red Sox and Tampa Bay in that 7-game homestand, and they're mowing you down, and they go 2-5 against the two top teams in the AL East, there is a reason for Yankee fans and maybe even Yankee management to panic. And they're winning right now. They're ahead, winning for the third game against Minnesota. But I think Russ, you, me, Nico, and about 5 other people can beat the Twins right now.
Yeah, I've got Nico leadoff. He's probably still got some speed.
Just a little bit.
So, Nico, Jacob deGrom is having one of those years. I'll give you some pictures that I've seen in my lifetime that had like dominant years. I was really young for Denny McLain, but Denny McLain, I was way too young for Koufax. So, there was a bunch of years I missed there. Tom Seaver, Steve Carlton, you get later into the Ron Guidrys, the Bob Welches, the Pedros,
Gooden,
Kershaw, Verlander.
John Tudor.
No. But this is a year that so far is eclipsing all of them. I mean, he's literally I think he's only given up 4 earned runs all year, and he's actually driven in 3. So aside from Ohtani, who's just, ridiculous, he may get to a point where he's driven in more runs than he has given up this year. But his ERA is like a 0.6. His whip is like, I don't know, a 0.8 or something. It's really kind of remarkable what he's doing and really what he's been doing for the last 5 years. Just absolute top of his game, top of the sport most years. Trevor saved the Trevor Bauer Cy Young because he earned that. But really remarkable stuff.
It is. I got a chance to see him up live in person here against the D-backs, and it's quite amazing to see what an athlete on the mound here. He's one of the best athletes on the field. He used to be a shortstop, and to see him, he could easily be a basketball player. He's so tall on that mound. And then his form, his body, when his leg kicks up, you can see he hides the ball really well within his lankiness, and his arm release. It's hard for the hitters to find that ball. His arms are so long. And then when he throws it, he's just dominant. And I haven't seen a pitcher with my own eyes as dominant as him, as someone as Doc Gooden. So that's definitely saying something. Yeah. He's at the MVP level is where he's playing at with the hitting. I did see him get a hit. Yeah. Get a hit and RBI, so he pretty much won the game with his bat and the arm there. And there, I heard a lot of MVP chants in the stadium there for him. So this could be the year where he puts it all together. He's gotten better. If you can imagine being better than the Cy Young, he went from Cy Young to MVP is what he's done.
Mike?
Yeah, I mean, he's amazing. Honestly, his consistency and his dominance over the last few years, the guy he sort of reminds me of, I'm not sure how long he was at the top. I know he was at the top of his game in '88 when they won the World Series, is Hershiser. I mean, Hershiser, DeGrom can...
Yeah, it was only a couple of years for Hershiser because he started to have arm injuries, and then he eventually did make a decent comeback with the Mets, but yeah, it was arm injuries that did him in. But yeah, that year... unbelievable.
And DeGrom is, I mean, he's pinpoint, but he's also got the top speed. Not as much as somebody like Syndergaard, but they're two completely different.
Yeah.
I mean, Syndergaard is a flamethrower. DeGrom is an artist, and he's an artist who paints with 98-mile-an-hour fastballs on the black. And that's amazing. It's like we'll probably look back in 10 years and say, wow, we saw this guy. And, how great was he? And, I mean, he's probably going to win his 3rd Cy Young this year. And
which would tie a Mets record because Seaver has 3 and Seaver never won a fourth because Fernando won it when there was Fernando Mania. But I felt like Seaver should have won that year, but didn't happen for him. So he's only got 3, and yeah, he may tie that. So that it is. Once you get in that 3 Cy Young territory, that's pretty serious.
But he's carrying a team that's been decimated by injuries. I mean, when you're playing
Yes.
Cameron Maben, who's over 60 now. I mean,
no, he's long gone. Come on, Mike, we're better than that.
Well,
Mets are better than that.
He was on your roster.
I know.
Had to use him.
He got DFA'd after he got the first hit too. That's the sad part. They waited for him to get the hit. What
you're saying is he'll be on the Yankees in a couple days.
Hey, maybe, but no, you make a good point. I mean, look, Conforto and McNeil are still on the IL. So yeah, and that's why what Nico is saying about MVP is possible because, not many pitchers have won it, but he really does have a legit chance. If the Mets make the playoffs, he probably will win MVP because he'll have something to do with it. But, interesting stuff. Good stuff, guys. Nico, you got anything to push?
Yes, today's show brought to you by Polly's Pies. Enjoy the sweetness.
What's the best tasting pie at Polly's?
Oh, without a doubt, it's the banberry pie. You got to have it, the strawberries and the banana and the cream.
Sounds great.
I'm not touching this one with a 10-foot pole.
All right, and that's it. Well, thanks for listening to the game. We'll catch everybody next time.
My man.